Should you watch Daredevil? Is it worth your time? Well, that depends on what you like. I'll uncover some of the things that you may like or dislike about it. First of all, Daredevil is a 13-episode Netflix miniseries, adapting the gritty and mature version of the Marvel superhero Daredevil. Daredevil is a blind vigilante with greatly enhanced natural senses. His sight is not enhanced, of course, but the other four are. At night, in most cases, he fights crime to make Hell's Kitchen, where he lives and grew up in, a better and safer place. During the day, as Matt Murdock, he's a lawyer and fights crime using the law. In general, Daredevil has a unique aesthetic and style, as well as memorable characters and a well-paced story. However, the show's dark vibe could deter the viewers that prefer the more lively vibe of the previous Marvel Cinematic Universe films. Daredevil is set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which means it shares the same universe and continuity as the other Marvel Studios movies and TV shows, like The Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Daredevil is the first of 5 upcoming Marvel Netflix miniseries, the others being for Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist. Then the 4 characters will cross over for the Defenders miniseries. Daredevil is its own thing, so you don't need to have seen any other Marvel Studios movies or TV shows to understand the context of this series. However, it would be ideal to have seen The Avengers first because there are some references to it, but it's not necessary. You need to be aware that Daredevil is a dark and gritty show. It has the mature audience rating, TVMA, and it's there for a reason. Not to mention it's well-deserved because of the intensity of those situations, but there's also blood, gore, violence, and adult themes throughout, so of course it's not appropriate for kids. If you're easily disturbed or grossed out by blood, gore, and brutal violence, then you probably would be uncomfortable watching this series. However, that visceral violence enhances the severity of the threat, and with the darker lighting, suspenseful soundtrack, the tight camera angles, that violence, it fits well, and it makes the criminals more threatening. But still, if that stuff bothers you, then stay away from Daredevil. I keep mentioning that this series is dark, but it's not dark in a depressing way. It has its moments of levity, particularly with the camaraderie between Matt and his friends. That dark feel is instead used to escalate the intensity of the situations. If you like the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, then you should enjoy this because it expands on that universe by introducing new characters and other things, and they could possibly show up on the big screen. Also, the fact that this is another cool superhero story should interest the film fans, but Daredevil is unique because Daredevil is the first street-level superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he is currently the only superhero in the MCU with a secret identity. And also, just the different, suspenseful, and edgy style sets itself apart from any previous Marvel Studios work, and that could be an attraction for the film fans. However, if the reason you like the Marvel films is because of their fantastical aspects and flashy action and special effects, then Daredevil may be less enjoyable for you because it goes for a more grounded feel with the street-level crime fighting. This does not mean the production values are subpar. I actually consider them to be big-screen quality, in fact, but they're not flashy and grand like how the Marvel films usually are. I like the pacing of this series. It kept me engaged and interested for the whole 13 episodes. It grabbed my attention early on with an intense scene right out of the gates. Then it gives you a scene providing some background dialogue. Then another intense scene, and it continues this pattern throughout the first 20 minutes. Basically, it gives me some excitement, and then it explains things, which it engaged me. They even show off an action scene about 5 minutes in. We get to see Daredevil's superheroics and the despicable criminals. Which is another thing the first episode does well. It shows how menacing the criminals of Hell's Kitchen are. The first episode ends satisfyingly without a cliffhanger, but it shows where the second episode will be going, and it alludes to what will happen. If you don't want to watch any more of the series, then, because of the foreshadowing at the end, you could interpret what will happen in that episode for yourself. But if you do want to watch more, then you'll know what to be excited for the next episode. The first episode doesn't dedicate itself to exposition of Daredevil's origin. It has some, but just enough to give us a sense of the guy's past, but also leaves me curious about other specific things in his background. This is nice because sometimes first episodes or films are dedicated to the origin just to get it out of the way before moving on to the more interesting stories. So it's nice to have the threat and the situation developed first instead of the origin, because it builds suspense for what the villains could do and how Daredevil is going to stop it, and those things get me interested in seeing where the series will go. There are plenty of well-written characters, many have character arcs, and each character has established beliefs that are interesting to see opposed or approved by the other characters. There are several outstanding performances. Vincent D'Onofrio in particular does a fantastic job as Wilson Fisk. I always enjoyed watching him on screen because the delivery in his lines has a guilty but certain sound in it. It conveys that he feels a little bad about what he's doing, but it is unfortunately necessary in order for him to achieve his goal. Hopefully Fisk, or Kingpin, will show up in some of the movies because he's a memorable villain and enjoyable to watch. He may be my new favorite MCU villain. To wrap things up, if you like a well-told, well-paced, gritty, serious street-level superhero story, or the expansion of the MCU's criminal underworld, or if you'd like to see some good comic book character adaptations and good performances, then check Daredevil out. But if you're a young kid or disturbed by brutal violence, which there's some cringeworthy stuff in there, or if you don't like the grounded and dark style of superheroes, and instead are expecting flashy action, then you probably should pass on Daredevil.